I have an abundance of Mora, and I was trying to look for a way to get rid of some because I have nothing better to do on my account. And then I thought of something. How much Mora does it cost to buy items from as many merchants as possible? Well, today, I'm going to find out. Now, according to the Genshin Impact interactive map, there are 64 merchants. This does not include Fontaine because the map is not updated, so because of that, I will not be visiting Fontaine today. But in the other 4 nations, I will try to visit as many merchants as possible and buy as many items as I can. If I miss a few merchants, it's not a big deal. I'll try to get through at least 50 because the map says 64, so surely it shouldn't be that hard to miss that many. Now I'll probably ignore the merchants that require sigils because those don't accept Mora, but basically any merchant that sells you items for Mora, I will try to visit them and purchase every single item that they have. So one last look at my Mora count here, 65 million. I'm assuming this will be below 60 million by the end of this video, but I don't know for certain. Alright, so what better place to start than in Mondstadt? First we have Wagner and Schulz. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. These two sell weapons, not really that expensive, but I'm gonna try to buy as much as I possibly can. Does anybody even use 2-star weapons? I don't think they do. So I guess some merchants aren't going to be very expensive. Wagner over here only costed 3,000 Mora, but hey, a purchase is a purchase. So his apprentice has 1-star version weapons. If you're ever in need of a dual blade, you can get it from this guy. Not really that much from these two, but yeah, let's move on. Also, one more thing I forgot to mention, if an NPC sells a one-time gadget or a recipe or anything that can only be purchased once, I will not count it in the calculation because I want this to be items that reset only. So things like weapons, materials, and so on. So next we have Sarah. I think this is going to cost more, but it doesn't look like that much. I think the ones that are going to cost more are the grocers, the ones that sell more materials to make food. So that costed about 100,000 Mora. Not that much, but I think it's going to start getting more expensive as I visit more NPCs. So this is one of the grocers that sells materials. It looks like that was also 100,000 Mora, so not that much of a difference compared to Sarah, but yeah, still kind of a lot of Mora. Okay, the next merchant is this girl over here. She's a merchant. Buy all the items. Alright, next we have Charles, the guy in the tavern. Again, not that much Mora, but still a merchant. Going to visit as many as I can. According to the map, there are 2 more merchants here in Mondstadt City. This is actually pretty useful because these are Mondstadt local specialties. So if you're too lazy to actually collect the material, you can just buy them from her. And then the last merchant is this guy who I believe sells furnishing blueprints. He doesn't have anything that rotates into the shop. So yeah, that's all the merchants in Mondstadt City. Let's move on to the outskirts of Mondstadt. So the first merchant we have out here in Windrise is Chloris over here, who, just like Flora, sells local specialties. These are all valuable items, especially the mint. I'm not sure if people really remember that this guy is a merchant, but yeah, he does sell a few food items. These look to be revival items and then 1 healing item. The first merchant in Springvale is this guy over here. I actually didn't even know this guy was a merchant until looking at the map. Oh, I believe this was added in the recent Fontaine update, so yeah, okay. Pretty obvious why I didn't know. And then next we have Draf, Diona's father. This guy sells meat and a few other cooking items. Pretty useful if you're looking to cook some dishes. And then the last merchant in Springvale is Brooke, the lady that you faced off during Xiangling's story quest. Alright, so according to the map, that is all of the merchants that are here in Mondstadt. Let's move on to Liyue. Okay, so there's actually a lot more merchants in Liyue than there are in Mondstadt, so I'm gonna try to keep track and not get lost or confused. So I'm pretty sure he sells the very same things except for a few items here like rice, tofu, almond, but everything else is pretty much the same. And then next we have this guy who sells grilled tigerfish. The Liyue shops are going to be a lot more expensive compared to the other ones just because there's a lot more items. I think Mondstadt doesn't have as many items as Liyue does. And Liyue also has a lot more merchants, so I'm going to be spending a lot more Mora over here in Liyue. Okay, making sure I don't lose track here. She is also a merchant who sells food, so let's buy all of the food here. For some of these NPCs, I'll probably just skip me buying the actual items just because I think the video is going to be a little bit too long, but we'll see. Then we have these guys down here who sell fish. Purchase both of their stock. We have Shuto, who sells, I believe, stones, ores. So the iron chunk and white iron chunk are not very useful. The Noctilus Jade is, if you're too lazy to go mine it, so it's a good way to get some Noctilus Jade. Next we have these two jewelry shops. I can't remember which one is the one for sigils, so I'll just check both of them. Okay, so this one's very similar to that girl in Mondstadt who sold 2-star artifacts. This is only 10,000 Mora, not that much. This shop here is for the sigils. She doesn't sell anything that costs Mora, so just gotta ignore it. Next we have her, who sells food from Shuiyun Kiosk. I also skipped her on accident. So these are the one-time recipes I've never purchased before. I'm not gonna purchase it, just gonna stay consistent. There's 3 more merchants in Liyue Harbor. The first guy is the guy under the bridge. And aside from Boo Boo Pharmacy, this is the last guy in Liyue Harbor who sells things. Boo Boo Pharmacy. Pretty good Liyue stuff over here. Lotus Heads, Qingxin, Violet Grass. Alright, so that's all the merchants in Liyue Harbor. Let's go find the other merchants in other areas of Liyue. The first one is this guy over here in Guili Plains. I believe he sells food, but I don't exactly remember. Okay, it is food. And tea. So trying to make this video really has put into perspective how many merchants there are in Genshin. I feel like I've visited so many already, but according to the map, there's still a lot more to go. So I will be trying to speed this up a little bit. I don't want to make this video too long. I actually don't even remember that she's a merchant, but apparently she is. Next we have the merchant by Stone Gate. So far I've actually expected to spend a lot more Mora than 600,000, but apparently food is kind of cheap in Liyue. The last 3 merchants are in Chainsaw Village, the first one being here. Okay, so this is the thing I'm looking for, which is expensive items. Also, apparently this merchant's items resets once a month. 3 glazed lilies. I'm not sure why the game thinks those are so rare, but they're not. This guy also sells tea, just like the guy in Stone Gate. The exact same item as well. Alright, and the last guy just sells one-time purchases, so just like the guy in Mondstadt, not buying anything from him. Alright, so that's all the merchants in Liyue. Let's move on to Inazuma. Inazuma merchants are usually just food sellers as well, so hopefully they're expensive dishes, because I want to spend more Mora. Now this is where it gets interesting, because the merchants in Rito actually rip you off, so normally I wouldn't be okay with that, but in this specific case, I'm actually okay with getting ripped off. The merchants in Rito really sell you things that are overpriced, just because, well, they want to make as much money off of you. Well, maybe not this guy, because he sells 2-star artifacts, but I do remember one of the other merchants sells you very overpriced dandelion seeds. Okay, so here she is. She sells you 5 dandelion seeds, 60,000 Mora each, which is equivalent to 1 maxed out gold ley line. So yeah, this is actually a lot, 300,000 Mora just for 5 dandelion seeds. Normally this would be a problem, but I'm completely okay with it. So Vahid and Kaede are not vendors, but I do remember there is one food stall down here. I believe this is the last one in Rito. Okay, so that's all the vendors in Rito. Let's go to Inazuma City. I also just realized I forgot to purchase items from the blacksmith in Liyue, but honestly, I don't even think it's that big of a deal. So just like Wagner, he sells 2-star weapons. Very, very, very exciting. These are a little bit pricey compared to other foods, but you can only buy 2 at a time, which is, well, I want to spend more Mora, but I can't. Obviously can't forget about her, the general grocer here in Inazuma. It looks like each region has a bunch of these materials, and then maybe a local specialty. This guy you can only purchase 2 dongo milk. 3,000 Mora, here you go. Okay, apparently Inazuma is pretty boring and there's only 1 merchant outside of the entire area, which is Kyoko right here. Yeah, very similar to the general merchants in each nation. So it looks like that's it for Inazuma. Actually, not that many merchants in Inazuma, surprisingly. Yeah, whatever. Let's move on to Sumeru. Let's start off in Sumeru City. I think it's easier. The first merchant in Sumeru City is actually her. I actually didn't even know she was a merchant. Well, I mean, I guess that's good to know. I didn't even know that she existed. I am spending Mora for the purpose of spending Mora. I actually don't even need any of these items. So if anyone's ever wondering what happens if you have too much Mora, this is what happens. 2 merchants here, can't forget about the ones in Sumeru City, the general one, and the blacksmith. I just want everyone to know that this is a very stupid idea and I regret doing this because this is taking forever. But To prove a point, I will be going through as many merchants as I can, just to spend more Mora. There's only 2 merchants in the Grand Bazaar, Spice Guy and then the other guy as well. Okay, it took me a while to find the other merchant. It was actually this guy over here. And he sells 2-star artifacts. Just like the other boring people who sells 2-star artifacts. Okay, so we're almost done here. There's only a few more merchants. There's one in Gandharvaville, and there are 3 in Port Ormos. So let's go to Gandharvaville first. It's this forest ranger here who's known to sell Rukashava mushrooms. I like to call Rukashava mushrooms forbidden mushrooms, just because, well, they're an item no one wants to collect. Okay, so apparently Port Ormos has 5 merchants instead of 3. I guess the waypoints were covering it up on the map, so I didn't see it. Okay, so at this point, I was kind of getting tired of looking for merchants. I guess I was just tired. I also lost track of how many I've actually purchased items from. So, yeah, I was kind of just brainlessly going through as many as I could. Not really caring if I skipped a few, but just trying to look for as many as possible. As a side note though, if you really need some specialties here, this lady here in Port Ormos actually sells some pretty good stuff. The final Port Ormos vendor is actually this guy over here. If you need some specialties from various areas, then this guy has definitely got you covered. He's got Mondstadt, Liyue, Inazuma, so yeah, if you ever need some specialties from those areas, you can buy it from this guy. This guy also sells it to you for very cheap compared to the vendor in Inazuma, so just buy it from this guy if you want to save Mora. Okay, so this is the second to last merchant according to the map in Sumeru. The first one here is the Aranara, which is pretty interesting. This Aranara also sells the forbidden mushrooms if you need them, so that's useful information to know. Okay, so the last merchant is here in our village. Once I buy the items, let's see how much more I have. And it looks like he just sells food. Very similar to the other merchants that sell materials, as well as some recipes and then just some dishes. Okay, so it looks like after buying items from 50 to 60 merchants, I kind of lost track of how many, but it looks like it's around 1.8 million Mora, so just under 2 million. I kind of expected it to cost more, but it looks like some merchants just sell very limited amount of items, or they're not very expensive in the first place. So if you're looking for an easy way to get rid of around 1.8 million Mora, then yeah, now you can go around buying all the items from the merchants. So yeah, I hope you learned absolutely nothing from this video. I guess the only thing you can learn from it is the fact that if you want to burn Mora and time, you can go around the map and just buy items from merchants. I don't know what else to do next, but I will see you later.